House investigators say Congresswoman Sheila Cherfilus-McCormick broke House rules 27 times. A bipartisan House committee mostly agreed with investigators, saying the Congresswoman broke House rules 25 times. Most of those violations were related to campaign finance rules.
There was absolutely no theft, absolutely no theft of $5 million.
You've had calls to resign that you adamantly said you will not resign. You have some of your own party saying it's probably better to resign. Is this a distraction for your constituents? I mean, at this moment in time...
No, what's more important that we have to understand also is that there's only 6 members who have said they want me to resign. There's only 6. And the rest of the members, when I talked to them, they were like, this was not fair.
Congresswoman Sheila McCormick is completely cooked. A bipartisan ethics panel just found her guilty of 25 violations. And instead of staying quiet, realizing that she has some federal issues to deal with, she went on TV to do some damage control. The problem is everything that she said made it worse.
But if you watched the whole 8 hours, you would have saw clearly that I was being railroaded.
We have the clips and we got the receipts. Let's get into it. But first, if you like this type of content, just a quick reminder to hit subscribe, like, hype, all those good things. Now let's get into it. For those who don't know, Sheila McCormick is a Democratic Congresswoman from South Florida. Her family's healthcare company, Trinity, had a COVID vaccination contract with the state of Florida funded by FEMA. In 2021, the state accidentally overpaid them $5 million, a decimal point error. And instead of returning the money, prosecutors said that she kept it, moved it through multiple accounts, and then used it to fund her congressional campaign and buy luxury items, including a 3-carat yellow diamond ring. Very expensive. She's been indicted on federal charges, and now she faces up to 53 years in prison. And last week, a bipartisan House ethics panel found her guilty of 25 out of 27 ethics violations. And just 2 days later, she went on TV to try to explain herself, and here's how it went.
There was absolutely no theft, absolutely no theft of $5 million. And we have all the evidence to provide that and to prove that. The second thing I want to talk about is when it came also to the reporting. That's another thing that's important. And the last thing that I really wanted to point is they said that they refused to even give us an extension because of timing. They needed this done before the election.
The record establishes that there was a scheme to impermissibly funnel Trinity's money to respond in special election campaign via both direct transactions and using various conduits. In doing so, respondent violated numerous campaign finance laws.
But more than half of it was paid to the Congresswoman and her friends and family. And of that, the vast majority went into her campaign. Subsequent to that $14.5 million being paid out, it was discovered that at least $5 million of that was an overpayment on an invoice for $50,000 where the decimal point was moved.
Hold on just a second. Absolutely no theft? Let's count the people who disagree with you right now. The entire state of Florida sued your company to get the money back. The lawsuit literally says that Trinity knowingly and possessed an invoice more than 100 times its typical invoice size. That's the state saying you took it. Then a grand jury reviewed evidence and indicted you on 4 counts, including theft of government funds and money laundering. That's the feds saying that you took it. Then a bipartisan ethics panel, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, reviewed 33,000 documents, interviewed 28 witnesses, and they found you guilty of 25 violations. That's Congress saying that you took it. 3 separate bodies, 3 separate investigations, same conclusion. And now you're going to sit on TV and say there's absolutely no theft. Then you say you have all the evidence to prove it. Okay, where is it? The committee said they gave you numerous chances to explain whether you had a legal right to the money. You didn't. Your attorneys stonewalled this for 2 years. If you have evidence that clears you, at what point do you actually show it? Because right now, 3 receipts say theft. You have no receipts saying otherwise.
There was an agreement before there was any mistake. They're saying there was a mistake in July. Before there was any mistake, there was an agreement for the money I was supposed to be paid for working as an independent contractor because I was in the field.
This is the foundation of her entire defense, that she was owed this money through some kind of profit-sharing deal with her family's company. Okay, where's evidence? Her attorney showed the committee an unsigned chart, not a contract, not a legal document, an unsigned chart showing how her family would split the money. Rep. Nathaniel Moorhan, a Republican who practiced business transaction law before Congress, looked at it and basically laughed.
You had referred to a profit-sharing agreement early on. Now we know what you're really talking about is a chart. Is that correct?
Correct. Well, they were both.
Right. It's an unsigned chart.
Correct.
All right. I will have to say I did a lot of business transaction law for a number of years before I came to Congress. I drafted a whole lot of profit sharing agreements. Never saw one that was just a chart that was unsigned.
The ranking Democrat, Mark DeSallier, said that the argument, quote unquote, strained credibility. And here's the math that kills this defense. In 2020, she earned $86,000 from Trinity. In 2021, she suddenly earned over $6 million. That's not a raise. That's not a profit sharing bump. That's a 7,000% income explosion that just happens to line up perfectly with a $5 million FEMA overpayment. The Ethics Committee Director of Investigations said it plainly. She previously earned $86,000 a year. Suddenly there's an overflow of money and it goes to her for reasons that are not dictated. An unsigned chart and a handshake don't explain that. Nothing explains that except for the obvious.
We actually have an agreement with the FEC, which is the actual body, the regulatory body. And in that report, they said that because I never ran for Congress before, and this was my first seat, that they expected to see some mistakes. And the way they resolved it is that people on my campaign had to be trained, and we also had to hire a new finance person. The regulatory body said that there were mistakes. And then even the committee stated that members of Congress make mistakes all the time. At the time of the mistakes, I wasn't even a member. And the second thing that they also acknowledged, that members make these mistakes all the time. If that is in case the fact that members make these mistakes all the time, and you feel that you should be holding me accountable for mistakes that were made before I was even a member of Congress, and now you're even looking at expulsion.
And are you aware of, I am not, there are mistakes, naturally, with as many people running for Congress, but of this scale, it just seems sort of extraordinary.
No, I'm not aware of something on this scale. I mean, we have precedent where similar schemes were conducted and they were 10% to 1% of the amount of money involved here.
She's trying to put a $5 million scheme in the same category as a typo on a filing form. Yes, members of Congress make reporting mistakes. They file an amended disclosure and then move on. What members don't do is receive a $2 million transfer from a family company on June 23rd and then move it to their campaign account the very next day on June 24th to make their campaign look strong before a filing deadline. Then pull it back out after the deadline passes. That is not a mistake. That's a play. The committee didn't review 33,000 documents because someone forgot to check a box. They found text messages showing her directing people on how to donate. They found flow charts tracing the $3.6 million in FEMA funds right into her campaign, funded with disaster relief money. And then she's standing there saying that mistakes happen. A mistake is forgetting to report a $500 donation. This is an alleged multi-million-dollar laundering operation with straw donors, shell accounts, and a diamond ring. Those are not even in the same conversation, and she knows it.
He even mentioned that this information that you gave us, this is exculpatory information. What exculpatory information means, like, this shows that you're innocent. If exculpatory information shows, in fact, that I am innocent. But what's really important, even though they admitted that this is exculpatory evidence, which once again shows that I'm innocent.
Respondent has put forth insufficient arguments today as to why the facts alleged in the statement of alleged violations, which are supported by the record, are at issue, or do not sufficiently make out the charged violations. This is unsurprising given that the violations charged in the statement of alleged violations are supported by hard evidence gathered over the course of a thorough 2-year investigation.
Now you can listen to how many times she says exculpatory in this interview. She throws that around like it's some kind of get out of jail free card. But here's what she never really does. She never tells us what the evidence actually is. Not once. She says a committee member acknowledged that something that she presented was exculpatory. Fine. But even by her own telling, the committee's next question was, why didn't you give this to us earlier? And then they deliberated past midnight and still found her guilty on 25 accounts. So let's think about this logically. If you show evidence that proves you're innocent and a bipartisan panel of 8 members reviews it and still votes you guilty, one of two things happen. Either the evidence wasn't really exculpatory or the other evidence was so overwhelming that it didn't matter. Either way, you can't just keep saying that word and calling it a defense. That's not how it works. Show the evidence. Explain it. Let people evaluate it. She won't do that because she says that the criminal case prevents her. But she's perfectly comfortable going on live TV to say that she's innocent. You can't have it both ways. You can't have a mediator and then plead the fifth at the same time.
That was one of the violations that they had to drop. They had to drop it because when they actually leaned in on the committee attorney, she said, well, they asked her about the legal definition of a shell company. And she said, well, it doesn't fit the legal definition of a shell company, but I am just calling it that. In addition, she said, they said, could you please show us the intent? Could you show us the relationship? And she stumbled and she could not show the intent. She could not show the relationship. There was no relationship with them at all. And so, in fact, they had to end up dropping that.
Then how do you explain that that was one of the counts, one of the 25 counts that they decided guilty on?
Well, you need to ask them that question, because you know what? They ended up dropping it. And I told everybody from the beginning that this was all politically motivated to have salacious outlines, headlines.
Now, this is a pretty sad thing that she's doing now. She's taking a victory lap on one drop charge. So let's put that in perspective. The committee brought 27 accounts. They found her guilty on 25. They dropped 2. That is a 93% guilty rate. And she's out there acting like the committee was embarrassed. That's like losing a basketball game 93-7 and then bragging about the 7. Yes, the panel dropped the count about the Haitian oil company money being funneled through organizations connected to her husband. The committee counsel didn't prove the direct link to her knowledge. That's how the process is supposed to work. If the evidence isn't there on a certain count, you have to drop it. But the underlying allegation that her campaign received over $800,000 from a Haitian oil company through connected entities, that's still on record. They dropped the narrow charge about her personal involvement, not the existence of the money. Even with that drop, she's still sitting on 25 guilty charges covering campaign finance fraud, false disclosures, misuse of official funds, and a lack of candor. But sure, you can celebrate the 2 and ignore the 25. I mean, that's an interesting strategy. I don't think it's going to work out very well for you.
I want to correct that, Glenna, because I did speak to I gave the ethics committee several documents. I have over $2 million in bills because we gave them over 200 documents.
For 2 years, the committee has worked to gather documents. For 2 years, we've tried to get documents from your client. Not only have we requested documents, but we have subpoenaed those documents. Those documents were not provided. For 2 years, we tried to get a statement from your client, even going to the point of issuing a subpoena. She does not have to talk to us. She can exercise her Fifth Amendment rights just as she did. But for you to allege that all of this information is new, that we've not tried to gather this information for the last 2 years, I find that offensive.
Now, here's the part that just destroys her credibility. She says, I did speak to the ethics committee. Every single reporter who watched the hearing confirmed the same thing. She did not speak. She did not address the panel. She sat silently next to her attorney, took notes, and occasionally whispered to him. Her attorney spoke. She didn't. Now, she has the right to remain silent. Her criminal lawyer told her she couldn't testify because of the pending federal case. And that's a legitimate legal strategy. But you cannot stay silent at the hearing and then go on television 48 hours later and say, I did speak to the committee. That's not a difference of interpretation. That's just not true. In the documents, the committee said they had to subpoena her because she was not cooperating with them. The committee chair said they've been trying to get these documents for 2 years and found her team's claims of cooperation offensive. When your credibility is on the line and you make a statement like this that can be easily disproved, it doesn't just hurt this claim, it makes the audience question everything that you're saying in this interview, as they should.
And the reason why it's so important, and I know a lot of people didn't have the time to watch the whole 8 hours, but if you watched the whole 8 hours, you would have saw clearly that I was being railroaded.
Now, I don't really understand what she's saying here. I mean, a lot of people watched the hearing, and what they saw was the committee nonpartisan staff walk through text messages showing her directing people on how to donate the funds to her campaign. They showed flowcharts tracing millions of dollars from a FEMA overpayment through Trinity, through the family-owned businesses, through consulting companies with her initials in the name, and into her campaign accounts. They showed bank records proving money moved into the campaign accounts before the filing deadlines and then backed out right after to fake the appearance of a well-funded campaign. They showed a woman making $86,000 one year and then $6 million the next with no clear explanation except a company that just received a $5 million government overpayment. And what did her side show? An unsigned chart, a cultural agreement about handshaking deals, and the request for more time from her fourth attorney. The bipartisan committee watched all that. They deliberated past midnight and voted guilty on 25 accounts. That is not a railroad. When both sides of the aisle looked at your evidence and then looked at the committee's evidence and came to the same conclusion, that's not politics. That's the truth catching up. She says there was no theft, but apparently 3 separate investigations say otherwise. She said she had proof, but won't show it. She said she spoke to the committee. She didn't. She said that she was being railroaded, even though both parties disagree with that assertion. This is what damage control looks like when there's nothing left to control. She has a federal trial coming up, and if her defense looks anything like this interview, she may have some issues and she may serve some time in jail. So we'll continue to follow this story because I think it's extremely fascinating. And let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch the video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.